Hey guys, we wanted to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Adventures of the Alpha Reds. I'm Ruben,
And Veronica.
and we are your Alpha Reds. Today, we wanted to introduce a new series of videos that we're going to be bringing to you that is going to be showcasing one of our other brands called Showmates. Now, Showmates revolves all around our love for watching shows. I don't know when we started, the passion for watching shows, but it was several years ago, and we found ourselves watching a show, and then we just couldn't get away from it, and then we started binge watching, and then we became showmates, and now we look forward to new shows, so that way we can share it together. And every once in a while we come across a show that really like has an impact on us so much that it becomes part of our showmate brand. And one of those shows is one that we're rewatching now. It's Breaking Bad. Now,
Rewatching for the fourth time.
Rewatching Breaking Bad for the fourth time at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of our favorite shows. So if anyone out there has watched the show, you know how great of a series it is. And so we're rewatching. I think we're I don't know, we're on season 2.
Season 3.
Season 3. But we wanted to talk about season 1, and this is just going to be a taste of some of the things that we're going to talk about on the episodes of our showmates. But we want to talk about season 1 in Breaking Bad, and I'm sure by now most of you have already seen it. But if you haven't seen it, it revolves around the life of a high school chemistry teacher. His name is Walter White, and he has a decision to make whenever he finds out that he is diagnosed with lung cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he has a former student that is in the meth game. He's dealing meth, but on a low level. And Walter White, being the chemistry teacher, we don't realize how much of a genius he is yet. But being a chemistry teacher, he understands the chemistry behind the drug, and so he connects with his former student Jesse Pinkman, and and they start on their journey of what is really the theme of the show: Walter White's transition from family man, stand up guy, to stable head to father and husband, all of those things, to a criminal, a meth dealer, right? And so there's a transition, and I guess they call that Breaking Bad.
I guess
That's like the point of where you transition from one thing to another thing. So it's actually pretty cool. When we started watching it, and what if you could be kind of the moderator of what we were discussing. But in season 1, for those of you who guys watch it, this is where Walter White first gets the diagnosis that he has cancer, right? And so that basically starts it all. And so he's figuring out, what is he going to do to be able to take care of his family, because he doesn't have much time that he's going to live, right?
And he wants to not leave his family in ruin, financial ruin, because he knows how the financial burden that a cancer diagnosis takes on a family, and so he didn't want to leave that behind.
Yeah, so it's a noble cause, and at this point we don't know what he's going to get into, right? But it's the thought process behind, I'm about to die, and I don't want to leave my family in a position to where his death is going to have a greater impact on them, financial impact, right? And so he has a brother-in-law who is a DEA agent, and that just kind of adds like flavor to it, because he's like, man, how are you gonna do this? How are you
gonna get out of this one?
Right. And so the show starts pretty much, it's on Walter's 50th birthday, right? So keep in mind, Walter is 50-year-old man, and he's been a teacher, and we find out later in the show that there's been some disappointment in his life that led him to being a teacher, and a chemistry teacher. And so you kind of see where he was just a shy guy. You know, didn't really assert himself. He was, you know, just kind of go with the flow. You know, and not cause any waves or anything
Yeah,
like
and
that.
he's doing everything to provide for his family because he also has a part-time job in a car
Oh
wash.
yeah, man. And then his boss like just kind of humiliates
Humiliates
him,
him, and
and you know, so he's doing whatever he has to do to put food on the table, and you know, some of his former students make fun of him, you know, because he's having to
mm-hmm.
wash their car and all that stuff, and you know, just you just kind of see whenever I guess kind of your heart goes out to the guy because he's someone who's trying to do the right thing, and you know, he's diagnosed with you know, a terminal illness, and then so what do, right? And so whenever we watch the shows, I mean, we kind of get attached to the character and kind of, you know, while we're watching, you know, we kind of associate with one or the other, you know, and just kind of relate to it. But you know, so we come into it to the show. It's his birthday. We see the personalities of everyone. You know, it's like his brother-in-law Hank
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like a, you know, strong personality, you know, just
Yeah.
kind of any room that he goes into, he,
So he's strong, he's obnoxious, he's rude, he's crude. I mean, I guess that's his defense
yeah,
mechanism.
right. The exact type of person that you would have running a DEA department,
Yeah,
pretty
I mean, I
much,
guess you have
right?
to have. I guess they build a hard shell or skin, you know, from what they have to go through and see.
Yeah. Well, most of the people who are like soft-hearted, kind-hearted, you know, they probably are not going to end up as a DEA agent,
Yeah.
right? They're going to end up, you know, at a car wash, you know, washing their students, their students' cars, right? So you know, the job description, you know, you can kind of, you know, Hank is probably perfect for that role. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, I mean, he is definitely someone that can get on your nerves, but you can see that he cares about his family.
Yeah.
He cares about his job. He cares about the community. He's just kind of an overbearing personality. And then so there's a huge contrast between him and his and Walt, and it's really cool to see them both kind of transition one, you know, go one way or the other, right?
Yeah,
Because you see later on, you kind of see different sides of both characters, you know,
mm-hmm.
as they kind of crisscross, you know,
Their
you know,
paths.
their paths,
Yeah.
right? And so what are some things that happen in season 1 that kind of stand out, or that you have written down that we should discuss?
So I mean, it was whenever he got together with Jesse. I mean, the way that he decided to his plan to be able to support his family financially as far as the chemotherapy and the treatment that he needed was, you know, he went on a stakeout
Mm-hmm.
with Hank, and then he saw how much money was
That they made,
that they
right?
made.
So it was at his party, remember?
Yeah,
Because
he was at a party
because
and
Hank and them had made a bust. Remember, they
uh-huh,
made a
uh-huh.
bust and it was on the news. And then Walt was like, "How much money is that?" And then
Mm-hmm.
Hank, I don't know, he threw out this number and he's like, "There's a lot of money in there,
Yeah,
right?" And so then he asked Hank if he can do a ride along,
yeah.
and then they took him there. And then that's whenever he sees Jesse Pinkman
He saw
jumping out of the
Jesse.
window.
He recognized him.
Yeah, and then he hunted him down. He found him, right? You
Yeah,
know,
he
because of
found him.
his Monte Carlo, I guess Monte Carlo that he was driving
Uh-huh.
had chili pea on the back, and so he goes all the way to his house, and he like makes a proposal, you know,
Yeah.
to become partners, right? And he said, "You know the business, and I know the chemistry, and here we
Mm-hmm.
go. Now it's gonna start getting good, right?"
Yeah.
And so, you know, the funny thing about it is that, you know, you got two guys that really don't know what they're doing, right? You know, Walt knows the chemistry, but he has no idea what it takes to be in that world, right? You know, he's just, in a way, he's kind of an innocent guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's an innocent guy doing illegal things to try to provide for his family, right?
Yeah.
Because there's, you know, at that point, like, what are his options?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think about myself. I get, you know, not that I want to do anything illegal, but when you're faced with that type of tough situation, you know, like, what do you do? I mean, this guy's about to die in what was it,
Mm-hmm.
8 months or
He had,
you know.
yeah, it was less than a year. I'm not sure how long they gave him, but the prognosis wasn't good, and so they told him it was inoperable, and so that just made it even worse on him because he felt like he didn't have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
that his death was, coming soon, and so this is his big plan.
Yeah, this is all it's going to be, and then he's hoping that he can make enough money, and then it's kind of offset some of the bad things that his family's going to hear about
Mm-hmm.
him, right? But in that stakeout, we not only are we introduced to Jesse Pinkman, but we see Jesse's partner Emilio, right, who is tied to another guy named Crazy Eight,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so those are some they're a little bit higher than Jesse is
Mm-hmm.
on the hierarchy, or the
Mm-hmm.
chain of command, if you want to call it. But they're still all lower level people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Walt is just beginning to get his feet wet in
Yeah.
this world, right?
Yeah, I think Walt has a different idea as far as, I mean, I guess he can see the business side of it too. Is like, okay, I'm gonna cook the product, we're gonna make the product, and then all you have to do is go out there and distribute it.
If it's that easy,
like
right?
if criminals are gonna have a business model and a business plan proposal, and they're not gonna deviate from that. It's like you're out of your element, right?
Yeah.
Right in the beginning, Walt.
Exactly. So he comes in and he sees, like, Jesse is using the wrong size
The flasks or
flask,
whatever,
and
and like
just
he correcting him, and when he's like, what is this, and he goes, oh, that's this, and he's like, no, that I even
like, you
forgot.
don't use that for boiling, and you don't use that for mixing, and all
Yeah,
of that
teaching
stuff.
him the chemistry, like if he's still a student,
And he's like, do you not remember anything that I taught you? And then he's like, and what about that ingredient that you're putting chili powder?
yeah,
He's like, we're not gonna put chili powder into our product. And Jesse's like, no,
that was
man.
his
Yeah,
signature.
he's like, chili pea, man, that's what I'm known for, right? And he's like, these are meth addicts. They're not gonna care what you put into it, right? But Walt, when he goes in, he's like, I want to make sure that we make the best product, that's out there, right? It's going to be whatever. It's going to be pure. It's not going to be contaminated with anything. And so he goes into it with just like understanding the chemistry and the right, the right amount, right percentages of all the ingredients, to be able to make something that is going to like blow all the other products that are out there. They immediately like calls a like what do you call it whenever they cause like
Like,
this, a wave, or they like they create like
people are talking about
talking about it, yeah, create a buzz or whatever,
yeah, buzz.
about the product. People are hearing about it, and it's like word of mouth catches on that this is the product, right? And so no one knows where it's coming from, right? The DEA thinks that it's coming from from Mexico with the cartel, and they don't know how it came locally to New Mexico,
because it also has a different color. It's blue versus, I don't know, I guess clear
or whatever, right?
Whatever. So it had a distinct color that they hadn't seen before.
That's right. And so what else? So we
so they meet Emilio, Crazy Eight. They are in the picture, but then they whenever they start to make the product in an RV, Crazy Eight and Emilio, they tell Jesse, like, hey, basically they threaten him, right? You're not gonna do this without us, or you're not gonna get over on us. So they go with Jesse to where the RV is, and they're out in the middle of the desert, and they're gonna basically rob Walt.
Yeah, they're gonna
kill, or probably kill them.
I think what they want to do is they want to get Walt to work for them, right? I think that's the first thing. But then whenever they see that he's not going to cooperate, now it's going to escalate to something different. And so Walt thinks fast, and he actually traps both of them in the RV using some sort of thing that actually suffocates them.
Yes, it creates this like deadly gas.
Gas, yeah.
And so he closes the guys in there, and one of them dies.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesse ends up running, and he falls and he hits his head and he gets unconscious.
He's like, "Run, Walter! Run, Mr. White!" And he trips and falls,
like
and then
3 steps, and
he's all knocked out for the rest of the episode.
Oh my gosh! And then so then Walt puts him in the RV with a mask so that he won't, smell the deadly fumes, and so he's driving the RV and trying to leave, and then he hears the sirens, right?
So he pulls over, and
or no, he gets stuck. I think the RV is stuck.
Yeah. So they get stuck, and then he walks out, and he's like, "Oh man, this is it."
He hears a sirens, like if the cops are coming, and he's doing his what do they call video. It? Is it a manifesto? Is that what they call?
Yeah,
like right
so.
before, basically recording himself, telling his family, I did this for you, please, that he loved them. I guess he was ready to
just spill his guts,
yeah,
and just say,
and so then
confess.
to confess, and then he's about to shoot himself, he I guess he figures, I'm not going to go to jail, and then the gun clicks and doesn't go off.
Man.
And then you can see it in his man, I don't want to die, because he immediately what am I doing?
Yeah.
So then he's basically gonna give himself up, and he's there with his hands raised, and I'm giving up. And it was a fire truck.
Yeah.
It was not the police. It was a fire truck, and they went right past him, he was in his underwear, this is just normal. Bye. Went past him, and then he's like, okay, I got another chance.
Yeah.
So then,
that dude was lucky.
Oh my gosh! From that very first episode, we're like, this is, it's a show, okay? But we really get into it, and we're like, come on, man. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they go back and say, hey, do you need help? What's going on? No, they just right past him.
Yeah, but they were going to a fire though, so it's like you kind of see. All right, so Emilio and Crazy 8 are stuck in the RV, and so they transport them back to Jesse's house. Right, so Jesse's living in a house that his aunt left for him, right? And so he doesn't own the house, but he's able to live there, right? And so he's doing his thing, he's partying and out of that house. And so they take, Emilio's already dead, so they leave him right there in the RV, and then they take Crazy 8 down to the basement, and
because he was kind of out of it, but he wasn't dead. So
yeah, but they take him down there to figure out what they're gonna do.
Yes,
right. And
because remember, they're not killers.
Yeah,
they're They didn't get into the game to be murderers, and especially not Walt and Jesse. He's a little scaredy cat, and so they get him in the basement, and they're deciding what are we gonna do? Well, the body in the RV needs to be disposed of, and then Crazy 8, we can, because he's gonna kill us eventually, right? And so they flip a coin, who's gonna dissolve the body, and then who's gonna kill Crazy 8, and so Walt gets stuck with Crazy 8,
killing Crazy 8,
right? And then Jesse's stuck with Emilio's body.
Right. So Jesse takes Emilio and puts him in his tub, which is not made of the right type of material, and so the acid that they use, right, is the acid that they use to dissolve the body. It goes straight through the tub,
the material,
through the ceiling and down, and so they have a big old mess, and that's done that they have to clean. And all of this time, Walter is actually trying to buy time, right? Because he has a problem with killing somebody.
Yeah.
And it's all he really wanted to do is leave his family with money, right? And so he wanted to leave his family with money. And that's all he wanted to do. So now he's having to make the decision of, I got to kill this person, right? And so Jesse had already did his thing. Jesse has a problem too, but it's he has a conflict with it, but he's willing to do whatever it takes. And if Walter tells him to do it, he seems to have that level of respect for Walter to be able to do it. And Walter starts to kind of see that Jesse, is going to do whatever he says, right? Yeah. So Walter's smart, so he picks up on it, right? But he's still at this point he still has a conscience, and he's like he hesitates whenever he has to do something, right? And so even though he is in the beginning process of Breaking Bad, he hasn't become like an evil person yet, right? He's just doing bad stuff, right? And so they end up going a little bit longer. They end up killing Crazy Eight.
Yeah, Walt does take care, kills him
Accidentally, right? Because he's feeding them. He's feeding them, and then he sees that because Walter had fallen and broken the plate.
The plate.
And so whenever he goes to pick it up, he sees that there's a piece missing, right? As he's throwing it away, and he realizes that Crazy Eight, even though they were down there talking, and it seemed like
they were making a connection because they had a lot of things in common in their life, and Walt was actually gonna let him go because he felt sorry for him, and then when so he goes upstairs to throw away the pieces of the plate, and he notices that there's a big chunk missing, and then he looks and he's like, oh man, like why?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Because now there's no going back.
Right.
Like he can't trust him, and so he goes down there and Crazy Eight tries to stab him, and he does. He hits him in the leg. But then Walt, the way he was chained up on the post, it was this metal bar going around.
It's
his
like
neck.
a lock on bikes that you put on bikes. Yeah.
He choked him, killed him, and so.
And that's the end of Crazy Eight.
Yeah.
But see, so Crazy Eight was actually related to someone that's even higher, right? So Crazy Eight so happened to be like he was related to Tuco, right?
No, Crazy Eight and Emilio were related. They were cousins, but Tuco was their higher.
Okay, so that's where Tuco gets
Tuco
in, right?
was their boss.
Okay, so he catches wind of this right here, right?
Yes, but they don't know who. Tuco doesn't know who did this, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves because Skinny Pete.
Okay.
Then after they get rid of the Crazy Eight and Emilio, then they're still left with well, we want to make this product, we want to sell it. Well, they had made some, right?
Yeah.
And so then Skinny Pete, Walt tells Jesse, well then who was Crazy Eight's higher up, right? Because now we can sell to them. Yeah. And so Skinny Pete says, I know who it is.
Because he was in prison with Tuco, right? Skinny Pete was in jail with Tuco. That's how he knew him.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so that's how Skinny Pete knew him. Like they were locked up together, and so he made the introduction, Jesse the introduction to Tuco. Right, and so they go up, and remember they look in the things. So they go up, and so Skinny Pete introduces Jesse.
Yeah, takes him to Tuco.
Yeah,
with the product. So Jesse has a product, and he's like, hey, I want this much, and then Tuco's like, okay, I will, but you're not gonna get the money until he sells it, basically, right? He goes, I'm not gonna give you any money because I don't even know who you are. And so then Jesse gets all, hey, I'm not gonna leave here without money, and then Tuco is like, hey, you're like basically nobody. Why are you gonna come over here and tell me how to run my business? So he beats Jesse. Beats him up really bad, and basically leaves him, and Skinny Pete takes Jesse like basically home or to the hospital.
To the hospital, yeah.
And so then he's like beat up really bad in the hospital.
And Walter shows up.
Walter shows up. Skinny Pete calls Walt and says, this is what happened. The product, Tuco kept it, didn't give us any money. Jesse's in the hospital really bad. So then Walt, by then, he had already been taking chemo, and his hair had been falling out, so he had already like shaved his head.
Oh yeah, and then there's another transformation, right?
Yeah, so he had shaved his head, and then he's like, I need to go get that product because without that, I can't, there's no money. So he starts wearing that black hat with his black shades.
He becomes Heisenberg.
Yeah. And so he goes up there, real confident because he goes by the security, and but he gets rattled a little bit. I don't know if you notice whenever they're patting him down before he goes up.
Yeah.
He went in there real confident, like I want to speak to you. Okay, well then they pat him down, they turn him around, and he gets kind of like startled, like, oh man, what am I doing?
It's like it's coming to his senses.
Yeah,
right?
like little bits, like he gets like snaps out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he goes back in there because I mean, what can he do? He can't show the fear
Right.
if he's trying to go up against this drug
dealer,
lord or
right?
drug dealer.
Yeah. And so it's like I think it's cool because it's like there's layers to the transformation, right? So it's like first you start to see, just an innocent guy trying to figure out how to provide for his family after his death, and then he has to transition to another person, Heisenberg, in order to level up in that game, right? And so he knew that he could not show up as Walter White to confront Tuchel, right? And then so he had to become somebody else. He had to become Heisenberg, right? And so Heisenberg, I don't know where he gets the idea from with Heisenberg, but he becomes this person, right? And it's a completely different person than Walter is, right? He's like, you know, just straight up. He's gonna take care of business, and you're not gonna push me around, that type of thing. And so he goes up and he tells Tuchel that he needs to give him his money, right? And so Tuchel's the same way. He's like, who are you and all this stuff. And so Tuchel tries to basically punk Walter the way that he did Jesse. But Walter was prepared, right? He had whatever that thing that looks like
the same mixture that produces that gas, and so he threw it on the desk or whatever, and it just like blows up, and everybody is like confused what's going on, and he gets his product back.
Yeah, and the money.
That's what he was going for.
Yeah.
So he gets it, and then he leaves. Like, I like the scene where he's walking out of that building, and the fire is in the background, and he's just like straight face, just, I came to do my business, and I got what I came to do, and he gets in his vehicle. But then when he's in his vehicle, right, he's like, he gets shaken up, he's like, again, snaps out of it, and he's like, oh, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's like the adrenaline rush, and he's like, yeah. He's just like mixed emotions. He's like, man, what did I just do? But I did it, and here I am. I got this. Not only did he get his product back, but he gets money. Like, he gives him that, and he's like, no, it needs to be this because, we need to cover the costs. But then, my partner is, the damages, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, it's another $15,000.
So did he get product back?
Yeah.
He just went to go get the money.
Oh yeah. I think he was going to go to get one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. And so he didn't get the product back. He got money.
He got the
and so
money.
he ended up walking out of there with like 50,000, I think, something of that number. And so he walks out, and then he becomes Heisenberg. Right. And so they start to know him as Heisenberg. And so he from there, he gets back with Jesse, and then this is your part. This is I was there for you. He makes sure that Jesse knows that he was there, and that he went and he saved the day, so to speak. And so this is the beginning of Walter and Jesse starting to bond a little bit, right? Because Walter could have just let it go, right? And then they probably would have never seen each other again. But Walter, realized that it's his fault.
Yeah.
He
felt bad.
He felt bad, and so he had to do something about it, right? And so I see Walter as feeling like a void that Jesse has for a father, right? Jesse doesn't have a good relationship with his family, right?
He doesn't.
And he's been a disappointment,
right. And it's mostly his fault. I mean,
it's like all of his fault.
His parents seem like they were good parents.
Yeah.
And they I guess it's they try to do everything they could in their power, and Jesse just kept letting them down because he would say he would get clean, and his parents gave him so many chances. I mean, we're just kind of assuming that from what we saw whenever he went to go visit his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was after he got out of the hospital, and I guess he was feeling like, man, I was almost gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to see his parents, his little brother. He sleeps there, and
he knows how to play them though.
yeah,
he knows how to
definitely.
play them on their emotions,
Definitely.
and so he's just that's just the way he is, and so his parents like they are at the point that they're kind of fed up with it.
Yeah.
So obviously it had been a pattern, right?
Yes.
And so because they don't seem like the type that are like, you mess up once,
right?
It's like he's probably been doing it for a long time. And and so, but he did graduate high school though, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So he graduated high school, and then after that, he because he keeps talking about, I was thinking about going to this school or doing that,
to his parents,
or getting this job, like to try to get their approval.
Yeah.
And so, but the parents are kind of like, yeah, we've heard that before, and we're not falling for it anymore. But you can see how it was kind of like, well, maybe we should give him another chance.
Yeah,
right?
And the mom,
more. And but the dad's kind of like, he's kind of soft too. For him, it's like he's not trying to bring the hammer. He's they're both parents are like just decent parents, and they're they care about their son, but their son just don't want to straighten up, right? And and so
that was a little, it was a little sad to see that. Where Jesse, we're like, man, Jesse, you got some great parents there. Just clean up your act. But then if he cleans up his act, then we wouldn't have a season 2, 3, and 4, and 5.
Exactly.
So then I'm conflicted too.
That's right. So I'm actually glad that Jesse chose that life, because if it wasn't for his life, it wouldn't have brought me the joy that I experienced from watching him screw up his life and do things that were totally wrong.
This is a show, people, so don't comment and say that we should,
Go ahead and comment if you want to. I will reply.
It's a show.
It's a show. It's a show, and we just enjoy it. And I don't know why it is. What is it about me and you that we love these types of shows? I mean, it's
they're
not
interesting
just,
to us,
right? It's not just shows in general, but so I mean, it's like Breaking Bad and Narcos and what
Narcos
is it?
again.
Narcos in Spanish, and Breaking Bad in Portuguese. We try the one Mestasis or whatever, or it's in Spanish, right? In Spanish, so it's like, we love these kind of shows, and then the next 48 hours.
Well, these crime shows.
Yeah, crime shows, right? And so, but anyways, they're interesting, and it's the drama behind it, right? Yeah. Breaking Bad is one of those shows that every episode ends on a cliffhanger. Yeah. And so you gotta watch the next episode, and you gotta watch the next episode. And then when you're ending a season and starting a new season, they bring it every time. Yeah. Great writing, the characters are good actors. This one right here, it's like the cast was really good. Everybody played their part like to perfection. The writing was done to where it's like, man, you just like, you get involved in it as the audience, and they really did a good job. And I didn't realize when I was watching it that I was watching one of my favorite shows. Yeah, it was just something that was interesting. And then I was like, man, this is a good show. Yeah. And then, I didn't realize that shows were that good. I thought it was like, man, I can't just sit there and watch shows.
So another thing is that we didn't watch this show when it was coming out on TV. Right. We started watching it in December of 2016. Mm-hmm. And so that was, the show had already been over. Because this show aired in 2008. Mm. And so by the time we saw it, had already been over for a couple of years.
So we binge watched it, which is that's how you need to watch a show, because waiting a whole week for another episode. I know it's tough.
We're like, how is it that people? I mean, we're
just know because we do it for other shows.
We're excited, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? If we were to have watched it the way it was coming out, like once a week, that's what we did with The Walking Dead. It was. Yeah. It was like, man, we can't wait till we see the start of a new season or next week and all that. So it keeps us engaged and looking forward to the next. But this one was like, we have to watch that. And that's what we're doing right now too. We finished one episode and we're like, you want to watch another one? Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like when you're watching it again, you pick up on things that you didn't
Yeah.
see the first time, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like we're able to talk with a little bit more, like, because we know the whole story, right? But we're able to kind of like discuss it a little bit better, and not the first time we were watching like, whoa man, what just happened?
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's after you watch it again, then you're kind of like starting to break it down. What are some things that you wrote down that we haven't discussed?
So then we also see the other the gray matter. That was a company that Walt's college friends created with Walt's research. So they go and they go to a birthday party from one of the guy. I forgot his name. I didn't write it down.
Schwartz is his last
His
name.
last name, and then Gretchen is the wife of that guy.
And her and Walt used to be together.
They were engaged to be married back in college, and then I forgot how they broke away. I think Walt broke up with Gretchen.
Yeah.
And then Gretchen never reached out back to Walt whenever her and the other guy got together, and they created this company that now is a multi-million-dollar company. And so they're rich. And so they get invited to his birthday party, and Walt and Skylar, his wife, show up. And
well, I don't know if they got invited. I think Skylar
reached
out to them and kind of coordinated all of that, because they hadn't been in touch for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And then so it just so happened that she reached out to them, and it was the guy's birthday, and then so they show up, and Walt shows up, and he thinks it's just
just like a casual get together.
Yeah. And so he shows up with a pack of ramen noodles
as a gift.
As a gift, right? And so this guy's getting signed guitars by I don't know who it was that signed the guitar, but signed guitars and all autographed, and all these expensive gifts, right? Surrounded by people that are in that industry, right? And so Walt shows up with a packet of ramen noodles because that's what they basically survived off of in college, right?
Yeah.
And so the guy, he was really touched by it, and so he starts telling the story, and you can see where that guy was like, to them, they didn't see that they did anything wrong, and so they didn't feel like they had done wrong by Walter, and but Walter saw it as this was basically my research, right? I guess him and Gretchen were actually working on that together. They show I think they show a flashback.
Yeah, they do. But I think that they were all involved.
Yeah.
The three of them were involved in that, trying to come up with whatever they were working on. But it was Walt who found this combination of chemicals that basically was the reason why now they're multimillionaires. I forgot what it was, but it was his research. It was he's the one that came up with it, or discovered it. He discovered that.
Yeah, and so the even the name, right? Schwartz being black, and then white, Walter White, and then that's why they call it gray matter, because black and white together make gray, right? Yeah, and so that's how they came up with the name. And so we see Gretchen and her husband introduced, and so Skylar actually tries to put them in there so that way she can talk to them about possibly paying for Walter's treatments. And
so I think she let them know, and then the guy Schwartz comes up to Walter and offers him a job. And I think that's how they were going to help.
Yeah.
Is to get him a job, get him on their insurance, and then he says, we have really great insurance, and so that he could have, cover his treatment. But I mean, that would have been a perfect solution, right? I'm going to get a job with this company. It's going to, financially, he'll be financially stable. Plus, get his treatment and all that. And then Walt, he says no. He thinks it's charity.
Well, it is. Okay, so like I can kind of relate to Walt, because yes, I do think that that's a great idea. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it would have solved all other problems, but then again, it would have ended in season one, episode 8 or whatever. But so you got to look at it from Walter's side. He still got his pride, and as a
Yeah.
man, right? He wants to do it himself. He wants to be able to at least whenever it's all said and done, his wife and his son, right, know that he took care of business, right? And so, but then on the other side, he's like, you're offering me a job. It's because of me that you have this company,
Yeah, that's
right? And
true.
so,
That's
like, to
true.
him, he's like, it's like a slap in the face because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how dare you? Because I feel like if they would have said, hey, look, you, if it wasn't for you, gray matter wouldn't exist. So we want to give you part ownership or something like
Yeah,
that,
that's true.
because
I
that's
hadn't thought
different.
about that.
Because like you're, I mean, it's gray matter,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So they obviously, they named it because of Walter,
You're right.
and so I'm thinking that Walter's like, the least that you can do, least you can do is give me, part ownership.
Part of
Even if you
ownership.
split it in three, I think
Mm-hmm.
Walter would have said, yeah, I mean, this is right for him.
Yeah, yeah.
But for him to offer him a job, it just kind of like it was a slap in the face.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
guess I didn't see it that way.
yeah, that's the way I saw it with that, because or else why would he reject it?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like, he looks at Skylar, and then yes, she's trying to do the right thing, trying to help, and she cares, but she also is basically telling him, well, you can't do it.
You can't do it. Mm-hmm.
And so because you can't do it, I'm going to talk to someone who can do it, and I'm going to take care of things. And that's just like all kinds of like messing things.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
messing with his mind, because
Yeah.
not only is he, I mean, he's feeling vulnerable, right? He's feeling weak, and he's about to die, and there's nothing he can do about it. And so he's feeling like helpless, right?
Yeah.
And so we have that to deal with too. All the emotions that he has to feel aside of, the treatment of chemo, and
Yeah.
and losing his family, and then transition into a meth dealer. He still have all these emotions that he's trying to process.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
And so what else?
So then so then they end up circling back with Tuco, because Tuco then tells Walter and Jesse that he wants them to supply them with the product, but he gives them this amount. I think it's like 4 pounds that he wants from them.
I think it's 2, and then Walter throws it to 4.
Yeah, yeah.
When they're in the junkyard.
Yeah,
right?
because and so he gets paid up front for that, and then Tuco. That's when Tuco beats up his associate that's there. That he makes this this comment that he doesn't like, and then so he beats him up almost like he's dead.
Yeah.
He unalived him.
Beats him to death.
And then Walt and Jesse are just like they're scared, like, I can't believe we just witnessed this, and then they see how far Tuco goes. Like he's not mentally stable at all. Like he's just crazy.
Yeah.
And so and then also it puts them in a position where, man, we're gonna have to come through, because otherwise, look, if he did that to this guy that works straight with him, like, who are we to him?
What are we gonna do? Yeah.
And so then,
so Tuco even says, owing me money is a bad thing, right? And so at that, remember, they show up and they're short, right? So they don't have the full amount.
They didn't have
and
the
so
full amount.
so Tuco's like, you're coming to me, you're short. And then so Walter says, okay, not only because Tuco says, all right, next week, 2 pounds and no production problems, right? And so Walter says, we're going to do double that, 4, right? And so the issue that they have is that one of the ingredients, I guess pseudo, right? They can't find it. And so Jesse has a lot of people that are going to drugstores, and they're getting, whatever the Benadryl or whatever it is that has that chemical. And so they're getting it so that they can make the cook the meth, and they just can't find it enough, right? So Walter comes up with the solution, being the chemist that he is. He's like, there is another way that we can make the meth without pseudo, and so but it's going to require a large amount, right?
It's
And
called methylamine.
methylamine. Okay, so methylamine. Now they store they you're not going to be able to go into your normal drugstore or normal warehouse to get this. So they end up having to break into this warehouse that stores chemicals by the barrel. And so these guys, being as naive as they are, they think that they're going to go in and they're going to find gallons of it, right? And so they don't have gallons. They have a 50 gallon drum. That's barrel, what it is. Yeah, big old barrel. And those are 50 gallons for sure. And then so they end up having to roll it out.
No, they were carrying it. They were carrying it out like this, and then they do get it.
Yeah.
I mean, they go through this whole like, my goodness, it's unbelievable that they even made it out alive, because they cause an explosion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To open up the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, so they get it, and they're set in that part, but then the DA gets a hold of the what happened, and then they see the video, and then Hank is overseeing the investigation, and he's watching the video of Walter, his brother-in-law, right? But he doesn't know it's his brother-in-law, and Jesse carrying out this barrel, and then Hank is the one. Hello, it's a drum. Why don't you roll it out? These are inexperienced thieves, obviously, and and so they're making fun of the video. But then, so that is like, okay, these guys are they're inexperienced, but they know what they're doing, because this chemical right here it's going to produce something and in a large quantity. So they were like, we need to get these guys. We need to see who these guys work for.
And so Hank, being the I guess the veteran DEA agent that he is, he's always like going to roll every rock, and he's going to look and search and until he finds the where the product is, or he arrests the people that are behind it. And so he seems to be like one step behind Walter the whole time. I mean, they're like right there.
Yeah.
And then so as soon as it happens, you can see that the DEA is like making their strategies and all that. And so they already know who Tuco is, and so they start making plans to kind of close
in on him, on his organization, and raid his place.
So
that's the end of the season 1. Is not in that order, but that's what most
basically those are the highlights. Those are the highlights of it. But so as for me, as a fan of the show, and watching it with my wife, it for me, it's if we're watching a show, I have to be able to relate to some of the characters. And sometimes you watch a show and it's like, it's I can't connect with the actor. Like, they're not doing a good job, and it just seems like I can't get into it. But with Breaking Bad, it just seemed like right off the bat, like I was watching something that I can get into. And it's like it had nothing to do with the subject or the crime necessarily. It's just like
the person that the characters, and they just do such a good job at creating them and building up on them, because that was just the first season. And we see Walt change in 8 episodes. I think there was 7 episodes in such a short time. And in the show, in season 1, it was a short time. It wasn't. It was a short time. Also, it wasn't like years that it went. It was probably a couple of weeks, or maybe a month or 2, something like that. And we see such a change in Walt.
A lot going on. I mean, that's not to mention that his wife, their relationship. Now you're starting to see like tension in the relationship, and it seemed like they were just a normal, like, loving couple, and she's like 10 years younger
Yeah.
than Walt, but I mean, they have a 16-year-old son, and
And she's
and she's
pregnant.
pregnant, so it's like we start to see where this process is changing the relationship or the dynamic of the relationship,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so got all of that stuff going on, and it's just barely the first season of Breaking Bad.
So and then he, to cover all of this, he's doing, he's lying to Skylar.
Oh yeah.
And she immediately senses his behavior, the change in his behavior, and so he's covering it up with lie after lie after lie, and it's just she doesn't believe him, but then also it's like she's trying to get him to talk to her about it, and she just can't get anywhere with him.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't tell you this, because if I tell you this, then like, it's over, right? And so, I kind of like, I probably would have just said it a long time ago. Like, all right, look, I got cancer, and unless you have a better idea, we got about 8 months, and we need to be able to make enough money so that you and Walter Jr. and the baby that's coming are set for life, right? Go. What are your solutions? Don't have any? Okay. I'm a chemist. I'm gonna cook meth, and I'm gonna do what I can and hope for the best, right? And so I wonder how that would have went down if he would have just been honest. Like, what was she? I kind of think so. We find out later on that Skylar is just not going to do anything wrong, right?
Yeah,
She's just she's like, she wants to do everything by the book.
By the book,
And so I don't think that she would have been able to associate how important, she would rather go and ask somebody for help than to try to figure out a way to do it yourself, right? And so she had no issue with doing that, right? And so Walter, I'm pretty sure maybe if their relationship was a little different, maybe he would have told her, right? And but he knew that if he told her the truth, then
you mean like if he knew that she was down to clown?
Yeah, that's what I basically want to say, right? So because I know that if it was us, then we'd be Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde, let's go. We're gonna go out in a blaze of glory, and we'll probably get caught in a couple of days because we don't know what the heck we're doing. And I'm not a chemist, and you're not a seller, but we would be down to clown, right? And so I don't know about you guys. Comment in the section like how you would have did it. I know we think that whenever we're in a situation like it's like, oh, I would never do anything like that, but get cancer and then see what you do, right? Get put in a situation to where it's like, you gotta, one way or the other, you gotta make it happen. Then you start changing, right? You start doing things that maybe you wouldn't do, right? And so that's how I look at that show, and it's just kind of real easy to engage with the with the storyline and with the characters, and so we love it. We're about to start season 3, or I think we just started season 3. But we're gonna come back and we're gonna discuss season 2 in our next. But we wanted to just give you guys a taste of what we're gonna talk about. This is Breaking Bad. This is Ruben and Veronica. We're your showmates.
We're showmates.
And we want you guys to kind of just kind of join us, and talk about this stuff. Pretty soon, whenever we get enough followers on YouTube, we may do something live. Because that would be kind of fun, where people can comment and we can do stuff like that. So if you haven't already, like and share, subscribe to the channel, help us so that way we can get to the point to where we can start doing live videos on YouTube, and then that's whenever the real fun starts to happen, right? Whenever people start engaging. But anyways, that's all for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. If we missed anything, we're sorry. We're going to come back and we're going to do it a little bit better season 2, but we just wanted to get our feet wet with this thing and just do something and hopefully entertain somebody, right? I had fun talking about it because I love this show.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything else? Sign us off.
This is Veronica.
And Ruben.
The Alpha Reds out.
And your showmates. All right.